why is it that I can't seem to change? We are going to dive into the center of the fire together as men. We're going to turn up the heat, and we are going to explore the answers as to why can't I change. So what's part of the problem here? Well, many of you have probably grown up with certain adages, certain sayings that have become like a part of your DNA, a part of your physiology. What do you mean, David? Well, maybe you've heard a leopard can't change its spots. Or many of you probably have what's called limiting beliefs. You probably have this thing called a mind, a brain, and your brain is programmed to believe certain things. And for most of you, you probably don't realize that a lot of what you've come to believe is not necessarily your core belief, but it's an inherited familial belief. For example, take a look at your beliefs around money. You know, money doesn't grow on trees, right? Or how about for some women, they might hear from their grandmother or from their mother that might hear something like, you don't need a man in order to be happy. You got to be a strong, independent woman. So we have a lot of beliefs that were passed on to us through our prior and previous generations, through our lineage, where all of a sudden you're born into these parents, you're born into this system, you're born into this culture that has encultured you into thinking the way you think, and it's become a part of your belief. And the question is the belief a limiting belief, or is the belief an expanding belief? Does it help you expand? Does it help you grow? Does it help you transform? Is it calling you to the next better version of yourself? Or is the belief holding you down? Does this family pattern, this family belief system serve you, or does it not serve you? So the number one reason why we have trouble changing is it all starts with our beliefs. Why? Because our beliefs then control what thoughts come to us, right? As soon as you have a belief, you have certain thoughts about it. And so, for example, if your belief is, money is hard to come by, or money doesn't grow on trees, or it's not easy to make money, well, then your thoughts are going to constantly back that. You're going to have thoughts about, it's really hard to make money, or, I'll get a good job, but then I'll lose that job. Or, making money is, it's easy for people who came from money. Like, you're going to have thoughts that perpetuate this pattern, like a hamster on a wheel spinning, where the thoughts are verification to further insulate that belief system. And then when you have certain thoughts, you're going to have certain feelings, certain emotions, certain visceral responses that are going to further insulate and embody that limiting belief inside of you. So you start with a belief that most likely at first was unconscious. You didn't even know that you had it. Next thing you know, your thought patterns are supporting that belief. Next thing you know, you have emotions that support that belief. And now you're in trouble because it's like becoming a part of you, but it's not really who you are. And the good news is on the opposite end, you have the opposite belief, but you've been far removed from that. So we'll get into that in a minute. So that's one reason why it's very hard for some people to change, because you would first have to be willing to look at, well, what are these limiting beliefs that I've embraced? Am I the originator of this? Did I really create this thought all on my own, this belief system all on my own, or did I borrow it from somebody? And you know what happened, you borrowed it. And the question is, are you ready to give it up? So then the second thing that we have to look at as to why is it that it's hard for some people to change, not only because you're stuck in your head about this belief system, you're stuck in those thoughts, you're stuck in those emotions. The second part is, and I've talked about this on a previous podcast, and it has to do with your identity. And what do I mean by that? And I told this story about this woman who came to my office back in around 1995, 1996, and she was in her little motorized wheelchair with a brown poodle in the basket. And she came to me with multiple sclerosis. And I asked her, well, how could I help you? And she said, well, I'd like to walk again. I've had MS, and I want to be able to walk again. And I looked her dead in the eyes, and I said, are you sure you want to walk again? And she looked at me like I was crazy. And how the story played out is that within a short period of time, maybe a month or two, she was walking again for the first time. A miracle. I'm not the miracle. She used me to manifest her own miracle, because some part of her believed she could walk again. So she used the forces that be. She used God to somehow find me, and God worked through me. And next thing you know, the woman's walking again. And so what'd she do? She walked her ass out of my office. And what ends up happening is she doesn't come back. I run into her 6 months later in the street. And of course, she's back in her wheelchair. I say, of course. Why is that? Well, was she really ready to change? What do you mean? Well, was she ready to give up what we talked about in a previous podcast? Was she ready to give up her identity? What's an identity? Identity, well, for her, was the wheelchair. I don't know who I'd be without this wheelchair. I don't know if people will stop and talk to me. I don't know if I'll feel important enough or significant enough, special enough or unique enough. I don't know that if I were to give up this wheelchair, will people still want to be in my life? Will I be isolated? Will I be alone? Will I feel unworthy? Will I feel unlovable? So I'm terrified to give up this wheelchair. So in a previous podcast, we went really deep into this, and I started talking about how all of us have our own version of the wheelchair. In her case, it was literal. But for us, it's metaphor. Like, what wheelchair are we afraid to give up? What are we getting by not changing? What are we holding on to by not changing? What feelings are familiar? What people are we worried about that would no longer be a part of our life if we were to actually embrace change? You don't have to look further than what I talked about in the previous podcast when we talk about the movie Good Will Hunting. I mean, here's this super genius kid who's hanging out with his buddies that like to drink beer, get drunk, and get in fistfights. I'm not saying that there's anything right or wrong about that. What I'm simply saying is he had a potential that he wasn't stepping into because he has an identity. His identity is, I grew up with these kids, this is who I am, they're me and I am them. So we all have an identity, we all have a wheelchair, we're all terrified to put down that wheelchair and to step into a bigger and greater version of ourselves. So when some people say, well, I really want to change, the question is, do you really? Because you're up against the strongest force in the world, which is your identity. And most people are terrified to give that up. I mean, I knew, I didn't know, but I saw a guy one time, just going back a long time, that I saw that he had a hole in his nose, literally had a hole in his nose, and I see him smoking. And I asked somebody in his building, what's going on? Oh, he had cancer. He had a polyp removed from his nose. He got cancer from smoking. I'm like, why is he still smoking? This is exactly why. Can he change? Yes, but he's terrified to put down the smokes. Why? It gives him a feeling of certainty. It gives him a feeling of connection. He gets to hang out with other smokers. Will I be enough if I were to give this thing up? Will I be enough if I were to put down the wheelchair? Would I be enough if? So that's something that you guys got to consider for yourself. Like, what is it that you're holding on to that you're getting something from? You're getting certainty from it. You're getting connection from it. You're getting significance from it. And I'm not saying that this is conscious, but I'm asking you to bring it into your conscious awareness. What is it that's holding you back? What is the wheelchair that you've been holding on to too tight that you know needs to be put to the side or put behind you so that you can move forward? Because the truth is, yes, you can change. Okay? I'll be the first to tell you, and I won't be the last to tell you. Or maybe I'm not the first to tell you, but you absolutely can change. Absolutely you can change your spots. Absolutely you were born for greatness. Absolutely you were born to be phenomenal and have an extraordinary life. That's who you are. All the rest is just BS. Bull, you know what, or limiting belief system, BS. It's just a limiting belief system that's been reinforced through thoughts, through feelings, through your actions or lack of actions. But yes, you absolutely can change. Or said differently, you can exchange. What does that mean? It means just exchange into a different version of you. I have parts of me that are lazy. I have parts of me that will never grow, but I have parts of me that are not lazy. I have parts of me that are driven, that are hungry, that are motivated, that are fueled. I have parts of me that believe. I have parts of me that don't believe. So we have all these parts and we have all these different versions. There's versions of me that will always be a loser. There's versions of me that will always be a winner. Question is, which one are we feeding? Which one are we feeding? Like the old tale of the grandson asking his grandfather about the two wolves on his shoulder. One wants to bring you down and make you sad and make you mad and make you feel isolated and alone. And one wants to build you up and remind you of your greatness and reconnect you to spirit, to God, to omnipresence. And he asks his grandfather, well, which one will win? And the grandfather says, the one you feed. Hey guys, this channel and conversation around manhood grows based upon your help and your support. Now, if you like what you're seeing and hearing, then hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you'll know the next episode has dropped. Thanks again for all of your support. Now let's get back to the episode. So can we change? Yeah, but you got to be willing to feed that version of you, feed those parts of you. That's where your energy needs to go. So can we change? Absolutely. We can exchange. We can exchange into the version of who God made us to be. We weren't put on earth to suffer. We weren't put on earth to be sad, to be depressed, to be lonely, to have anxiety. That's all an illusion that we've bought into. We can absolutely change. We can absolutely exchange. And you, yes, you, I'm talking to you, are 100% capable. How do I know? Well, I see it all the time. Living proof. It's not just like I get to read about it in a book or I got to do it in my own life and I get to witness hundreds upon hundreds of men going through the changes. One of my favorite stories is with one of our senior coaches now. His name is Joshua Kahn. Maybe some of you have seen his video where he literally went from feeling like a fraud, a phony, to stepping into the fullness of his leadership. Yes, you can change. He used to wake up every day and smoke weed. He had one child and then another one on the way. He was living with a woman for over 7 years. There was no intimacy. There was no connection. And he had no ambition whatsoever in his life. And what did he do? He ended up in a Man on Fire 4-day immersion, which is our signature event. Can he change? Hell yes, he can. Did he change? Hell yes, he did. Did he step into his leadership? Hell yeah, because now he's one of our top senior coaches, where his heart's online, he's rooted and grounded, he knows who he is, he trusts his intuition, he's reconnected to God, he's living on purpose, he's living as a leader that he was born to be. So he exchanged into the real version of who he was. And so can you. So can you. Because the voice in your head, oh, well, that, Josh could do it. Oh, maybe you did it, David, but not for me. You don't understand. I was sentenced to a life of hell. I was sentenced to a life of suffering. You don't really understand my backstory. No, I understand that everybody has a wheelchair. And what I've understood is that for 10 plus years of working with men, there's only one man out there that I can't help. One type of man. And that is the man that wants to believe that his problems are greater than everybody else's problems. His situation, his circumstances are bigger and more grand and more complicated and more sophisticated and more complex and more nuanced than everybody else's problems, and nobody can help me. And if you believe that, you will win that game. You will win, and we will not, or nobody will be able to help you if that is your true belief. So I'm challenging you, if that's how you're thinking, give that up. That will only lead to a life that's wasted, and you are better than that. You are absolutely better than that. But you got to know that. You got to be willing to give up that story. You got to know that you can change. You got to know that you can exchange. You got to know that you're built for more. You got to know that you are destined for greatness, and you got to know it's possible. So what can you do? Well, what you do is you start hanging out with those who won't let you play small, who won't let you stay the same, who won't let you buy into your own limiting beliefs, who won't let you sell yourself on your own bull, you know what. You got to hang out with people that will challenge you, that will push you, that will stretch you beyond your comfort zone, because that's where change happens. That's where growth happens. Your growth begins at the end of your comfort zone. So you got to be willing to immerse yourself in cultures, in environments. Like Man on Fire is one of them, right? If you have another one, great. I don't mean twiddling your thumbs sitting around church or sitting around synagogue just talking about your problems. I mean get in an environment where you will have men sitting to your left, to your right, in front of you, behind you, saying, hey, I see who you are, I see your greatness, I see your bigness, I see your potential, and I am not going to let you sell yourself short. I am holding you to the fire. I am holding you accountable to your greatness, to your full potential. If you're not hanging out with those people, you are hanging out with the wrong people. So I'm not here to be down on you guys or to put you down. I'm here to wake you up, remind you. One of my greatest gifts is I see the potential inside of every human being. And I will give you my love, and I will give you my energy, and I will give you my support, and so will my team, if you're willing to put down your wheelchair, if you're willing to embrace the fact that you can change, you can exchange, if you're willing to believe that my problem is not greater than your problem. Because we've seen horrific things and heard horrible stories of men that have come to us. From physical abuse, to sexual abuse, to mental abuse, to spiritual traumas. We've heard and seen it all. And we've seen those exact men turn their whole life around. And so can you. So I want you to write down, what is your story about change? What is the story that you've had? Is it change is too hard? Oh, it's too late for me? Oh, I'm too old? What is your story about change? Write it out. See what it's been. See what it's been, because we got to poke holes in it. Then I want you to write down, what does your new story need to become? Right? Because you need to start believing it. You need to start having a new belief system, which we talked about in the previous episode. You need to start believing differently. You need to start thinking differently. You need to start feeling differently. You need to start acting differently. So write down, what is my story about change? Read it, laugh about it, and then write down your new story about what change needs to be. What is this new story? And play your favorite music to it and dance with it. That's always a good way of anchoring it into your body. Because the more that you say it, and the more you feel the emotion behind it, the more you're anchoring it in. Because you got to get past those old stories. Also, I want you to ask yourself, who would I need to start surrounding myself with? And who do I need to let go of? And I don't mean let go of them because they're bad people. I don't mean that you're judging them. I mean because you value your time. Your time is sacred. It is the most precious commodity that we are afforded. Money comes and goes, but time that's lost is never found again. So who do you need to start hanging out with? Whether it's getting inside a man on fire, whether it's joining another men's group, and remember, they got to push you, they got to stretch you, they got to challenge you, they got to hold you accountable. They can't let you off the hook, because your growth will begin at the end of your comfort zone. So I want you to put into the chat, are you willing to change or exchange? Are you willing? Yes or no? Like, yes, David, I am willing to change. Yes, David, I am willing to exchange into a more up-level version of me that God made me to be, intended me to be, so that I can show up for myself and I can show up for others in a more powerful way. Yes, I'm willing to do that. Put that into the chat. And if you're already living that, good for you. And if you have a friend that's been down and he forgot who he is and he forgot about his greatness, he forgot about his magnificence, he forgot how phenomenal he is, how much extraordinary he is, send this podcast to him. Because together as men, we all rise. Here's to you, rising with passion, power, and a deeper sense of purpose. All right, gentlemen, I'll see you inside of the next podcast. So much love. If you like what you're seeing and hearing, then hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and click the notification bell so you'll know the next episode has dropped.